Have you ever felt like you've just hit a wall with your AI prompts? Yeah, you're not alone. We all start with simple questions, right? But to get those truly powerful next-level results, we've got to start thinking differently. So in this explainer, we are going way beyond just a list of magic prompts. We're going to uncover the core principles, the actual mental models that master prompters use to unlock some incredible AI performance.
Okay, let's dive right in. This quote from Nate B. Jones, it really gets to the heart of what we're doing today. We're not just learning a few tricks here. We are learning a whole new way of thinking about how we interact with AI, based on the fundamental principles that the most advanced users already get.
So, here's the crucial point. It's all about a mindset shift. You see, a basic prompter, they ask a question and just hope for a good answer. But a master prompter, they don't just ask, they design a process, a system inside the prompt itself that literally forces the AI to produce a better, more reliable, and way more insightful answer. It's a huge shift from just being a user to becoming an architect.
To help us make that shift, we're going to build a toolbox. And today, we're adding 4 incredibly powerful mental models to our kit: the self-correcting system, the meta-prompting engine, the reasoning scaffold, and the perspective shift. Let's get started with that first one.
All right, tool number 1. This is all about building prompts that have their own kind of built-in quality control mechanism. We're talking about getting the AI to critique, to attack, and ultimately to improve its own work before you even see that final output.
Now, what's so interesting here is the core problem this solves: single pass generation. Think about it. By default, an AI just gives you its first thought. It doesn't really reflect or second-guess itself. Well, a self-correcting system completely breaks that cycle by structuring the prompt to include this mandatory step of self-critique.
A really great way to do this is with the chain of verification technique. It's a simple 3-part structure you build right into your prompt. So first, you ask for the core analysis, but then, and this is the key, you immediately follow up and say, now identify 3 ways your analysis might be incomplete or just plain wrong. And finally, you tell it to revise its first answer based on that critique it just gave itself. You're building a verification loop right into a single conversation turn. It's so powerful.
So if chain of verification is like a friendly peer review, then adversarial prompting, well, that's more like an aggressive stress test. You're not just asking the AI to check its work, you're flat out commanding it to find flaws, even if it has to get creative. This is the technique you use when you absolutely need to be sure an idea, like a new security architecture, is as solid as it can possibly be. So this obviously brings up a really important question. When should you actually reach for this self-correction tool in your new toolbox? You're going to want to use it anytime the stakes are high. When you need extreme accuracy, when you're really pressure testing a plan, or whenever you need to deliberately fight that tendency to just accept the first easy answer. Basically, it's your best defense against hidden flaws and jumping to conclusions too early. All right, let's move on to our second tool. This one builds beautifully on what we've just learned. It's called the meta-prompting engine, and honestly, it's one of the most powerful and, I think, underutilized techniques out there. Okay, this is where things get really, really fascinating. The AI, it's been trained on just mountains of data, and that includes countless articles and conversations about prompt engineering. So it actually knows what makes a good prompt. Metaprompting is the art of tapping into that knowledge and getting the AI to basically act as your co-pilot in designing better instructions for itself.
And this just brilliantly illustrates the technique of reverse prompting. You see, you don't just ask for an analysis. You ask the model to first design the perfect prompt for that analysis and then immediately execute it. It's like asking a master chef to write the ultimate recipe for a dish and then cook it for you right there on the spot. It just opens up a whole new level of capability.
You can also get a bit more iterative with something called recursive prompt optimization. Here's how it works. You give the AI your current prompt, and you tell it to improve it over several versions, all in one go. You could say, for version 1, I want you to add missing constraints. For version 2, resolve any ambiguities. You're guiding the AI to refine its own instructions along the specific things you care about the most.
So we've learned how to make the AI correct itself and how to make it improve its own prompts. Our third tool, the reasoning scaffold, is all about controlling how the AI thinks, by giving it a structure it has to follow.
You know, the big challenge here is that these models, to be efficient, can sometimes collapse their reasoning chains or take mental shortcuts. A reasoning scaffold is basically a template or structure that you provide that forces the model to slow down and show its work, building a much more deliberate and transparent chain of thought.
One way to build a scaffold is with a zero-shot chain of thought. Now, zero-shot just means you're not giving it any prior examples to follow. You're just giving it a structure and telling it to get to work. You literally provide a template with blank spaces to fill in. For example, if you're troubleshooting a technical issue, you could list out the key questions it needs to answer in order. The model's immediate goal becomes filling in your structure, which forces it to break down the problem logically.
Another really powerful technique here is deliberate over-instruction. Models are trained to be concise, right? We can fight that by explicitly telling the AI, do not summarize, and demanding that it expand on every single point with exhaustive detail. You force it to expose its entire reasoning process. The goal here isn't to get a clean final document. It's to see every single nook and cranny of the model's thinking, so you can engage with it on a much deeper level.
And that brings us to the final tool in our Master Prompters toolbox. We've controlled the AI's output, its instructions, and its thought process. Now we're going to control its point of view with the perspective shift.
Let's be honest, any single perspective, even in AIs, is going to have blind spots. A perspective shift forces the model out of its default mode by making it generate and analyze competing viewpoints. It's this clash of ideas that produces a much higher quality, more robust final synthesis.
And the best way to do this is with a multi-persona debate. You can literally instruct the AI to embody multiple experts with conflicting priorities, like a cautious engineer who's focused on stability versus an ambitious marketer who's all about growth. You make them argue, you make them critique each other's positions, and then you have them synthesize a recommendation that addresses everyone's concerns. It is a fantastic way to surface tensions and find brand new ideas.
A more subtle technique is something called temperature simulation. Temperature is normally an API setting that controls creativity, but you can actually simulate it right in the chat. You can ask for a low temp pass from a confident, concise expert, followed by a high temp pass from, say, an uncertain junior analyst who over-explains everything. Then you ask the AI to synthesize both, pointing out where the confidence is justified and where a little uncertainty is probably warranted.
And there you have it, 4 powerful mental models for your new Master Prompters toolbox. You've got the self-correcting system to make sure you get quality, the meta-prompting engine to design better instructions, the reasoning scaffold to structure thought, and the perspective shift to uncover those hidden blind spots.
You know, using these tools fundamentally changes our relationship with AI. So I'll leave you with this question to think about. If an AI can critique its own work, if it can improve its own instructions, and if it can debate itself from multiple perspectives, what does that mean for the future of collaboration? It kind of suggests a shift from just using a tool to partnering with a dynamic, reflective system.